Hello everyone, how's everyone doing? This is what you came to see, right? Welcome to Fiaura, and welcome to the review of the XM1 Tier 6 American Line Main Battle Tank. Now, I'm going to preface this with saying I'm not actually going to be driving this during the gameplay portion, somebody else is. But in the meantime, let's have a look-see at the XM1. Now, this is in fact not the XM1 that became the M1 Abrams. That's a different XM1. Despite what is said down here in the details under history, this is not that tank. Say it again, bad. Get your tanks right. But in the meantime, let us compare the XM1 to its competitors as we would normally do to show you guys if it has any advantages over anyone else. And I'm going to go ahead and say it is the Joe Blow of Tier 6 main battle tanks. Like, it is literally just average Joseph MBT that pulled up yesterday and said, I'm an MBT. We are going to compare it to the MBT-70 because that is available for purchase right now. And it has to compete with that. So here we go. Against the MBT-70, which was also a competitor for the American first main battle tank of the current generation, the XM1 has inferior penetration and inferior damage, but superior damage per minute because of a much faster firing gun. Actually, my MBT-70 Merc is terrible. Where's my MBT-70? My regular MBT-70. My MBT-70 Merc isn't even fucking equipped. Regular MBT-70. So, still has superior damage per minute, but significantly terrible alpha. And when I really do compare this to other main battle tanks, it has a really crap gun, as we're going to see. In addition to this, it has more hit points than the MBT-70 and superior armor, as well as armor composition on the hull and turret. It is faster to accelerate it's slower to accelerate, and this is particularly something of interest. It is very slow to accelerate over 32 kph. Once you get it up to 32, that's pretty much the speed you're going to be doing unless you're going downhill or on a road. It takes a lot of time for it to build up to that full 72 kph. You will almost never, ever see the full 72 kph. It does, however, have a much better view range and superior camouflage to the MBT-70, so you will outspot MBT-70s, and you have better frontal gun depression, as well as much better accuracy and a faster aim time with a slightly faster turret. Your hull, however, I'm going to say this right now, we don't have hull traversing here. The hull of this thing turns like a pig. The MBT-70 is definitely more agile when it comes to the hull. So, against the Leopard 2 AV, you have inferior penetration, damage per minute, with a slightly quicker reload than the Leopard 2 AV. You have inferior hit points, despite the fact that I've applied an armor upgrade slot because you do have one. It still comes out to where it's just not getting those hit points up there. You have better hull armor and a smaller, lower glacis section that is vulnerable to damage due to a slightly worse angle. But you have a much bigger weak point in the form of an exposed turret ring, and your armor is actually thinner on the turret, though your armor is much better at repelling shaped charges, i.e. missiles. You are quicker to get to 32 kph, but once you get to 32, the Leopard 2 AV will out-accelerate you to top speed. I'm going to say that now. You have a better view range with the same camouflage rating. You are more likely to see the Leopard 2 AV than he is to see you first. With the same gun depression off the front, but he has better gun depression off the rear. You have the same accuracy. Barely a tenth of a second separating you in aim time. And you have a quicker turret. But once again, the XM1's hull turns like a pig. The Leopard 2 AV is definitely more agile in the hull department. And with a vastly superior gun in everything but aim time and actual reload. So be in mind that the Leopard 2 AV can out firepower a tank. It actually can do it against an XM1. There's a reason you don't see many of these driving around. Now, against the T-72A, big old Soviet boom. You have inferior penetration by a lot, as well as inferior damage by a decent amount. You have inferior damage per minute with a faster reload. You have superior hit points and better armor overall, both in terms of shape, composition, and in weak point location. However, your weak points are bigger and easier to hit, and because your hull is slower to turn, it is therefore easier to shoot into said weak points. While you are faster to accelerate to 32 kph, the T-72A will consistently outpace you at the middle ground in a drag race, meaning once you get up to 32, once again, you will be slower and your hull resistance is much higher than the T-72A's. Also, I dare say the T-72 turns quicker. T-72 has superior camouflage but inferior view range. What this means for all those who need an interpretation is sitting still with the XM1 moving, the T-72 will outspot you. However, with both tanks moving or with the XM1 sitting still, it will outspot the T-72A. The T-72 has inferior cannon depression as well as accuracy and aim time, but it has a quicker turret, and I will say it again, I feel like it has a faster hull. Lastly, we come to the Type 85-2 Chinese tank. Once again, your penetration is inferior, as is your actual alpha damage. You do have a higher damage per minute against the Chinese tank, but less hit points and shittier armor. Actual thickness of the armor is less, though you have better composition. So, one half does the other, would one person say, and I would say the Type 85-2 has a superior armor because it's just straight up thicker. There's less manipulation of angles and ammunition type that can influence the thickness of your armor against each other, though you do have better side armor and a side skirt that is actually decently thick, whereas the Type 85-2 does not have that side armor capability. You have inferior camouflage with a slightly better view range. What this means is, unlike with the T-72A, you are likely to lose the spotting game in all instances, whether you're sitting still, moving, he's sitting still, or moving. Because of the way the spotting system works, you get 15 extra meters of spot, but then 5% more of your spotting range comes off. So when we factor that in, your effective view range to spot a Type 85 who is moving is going to be 337 meters. Versus him spotting you while moving is going to be 342. He will outspot you in almost every instance because of his better camouflage. You do have superior gun depression, much better accuracy, but a worse aim time! And you have a barely faster turret, but once again a slower hull. So, what does this mean for this American MBT? Well, you have the worst damage, worst penetration of any Tier 6 vehicle. You come in a whopping 4th place out of 5 tanks for hit points. In somewhere in between 2nd and 3rd place in terms of armor, behind the Leopard 2 AV and MBT-70. You come in first in acceleration to 32 kph, but you come in last in acceleration to your top speed, and in dead last for hull traverse. You have one of the worst Tier 6, if not the worst Tier 6 camouflage ratings in the game, with one of the best MBT view ranges available. You have the best cannon depression off the front of the tank. You have the best Tier 6 accuracy out of any main battle tank gun. You have the 2nd best aim time. And you have the 4th place in turret traverse behind the Leopard 2, or you have the 2nd place in turret traverse behind the T-72A. Means that statistically you are a pretty shit tank. No offense. Everyone's going to take offense to me saying that, but statistically, you're in middle of the road for hit points, middle of the road for armor, middle of the road for highest damage per minute, highest reload, worst penetration and damage, just flat out, you lose. You come in last place. Last place at getting to top speed, last place in hull traverse, worst camouflage, and worst hull traverse, and worst ground resistances when it comes to accelerating off terrain. In addition to this, weak point wise, you have this turret ring, you have this driver hatch, you have this commander hatch up here for partial damage. This gunner sight over here will also take full damage. In addition to this, your lower plate is pretty weak and pretty poorly angled for spike purposes. Lastly, your tracks stick out pretty far, as does your side armor from the front, so it's very easy to get a hold of this section of the tank from the side and penetrate side armor rather than frontal armor. And with a very slow hull traverse, you're easily outflanked, though your side armor and side skirt are usually sufficient to block quite a bit of shots because it's 155 millimeters thick, which is unusually thick for a Tier 6 vehicle. When you add in the 30 millimeters of side skirt, you're looking at an effective armor of 210 on the sides. If you're shooting in the side skirt, if you're shooting underneath the side skirt, you're only shooting 155 millimeters. Meaning that AFVs do have to actually aim at you when they get beside you in order to penetrate you, though your rear armor is pretty much butter like everyone else's. So, that is your statistical rundown. In my opinion, this is one of the worst, if not the worst, Tier 6 main battle tanks. It's my opinion. I mean, in a skilled player's hands, yes, any tank can do well in a skilled player's hands. But even in my hands, and I would consider myself a skilled player, I can't honestly make this one perform. I honestly cannot make this one perform. And you might go, well, it's not your playstyle, Fiaura. Well, I've heard that before. Neither is the T14 Armata, and I can make it perform. Neither is the Leopard 2A6. I made it perform. Neither is the TM9 DMS, and I enjoy it thoroughly. I mean, and if you want to go into other main battle tanks, the Leopard 2AV. I mean, I've only done a match in it, but I made it perform. The Chieftain Mark 6 is not my style. It's slow and big and hard, and I still played 12 matches in it. Made it perform. Challenger 1, I make it perform. Even though I lose most of my matches, I still make it perform. With a 1.66 kill to death ratio. And managing to output more damage than I take in a Challenger 1, which is very difficult when you have a shitload of hit points and not a very high-hitting gun. But you get the idea. I can make main battle tanks perform. Hell, we had an excellent game in the Starship today. But I just cannot, for the life of me, make this tank perform. I can't. I feel like I'm driving an upgraded Chieftain Mark 5 in a Tier 6 game. As Tier 6 being the lowest tier I can get. That's really what I feel like. And some of you may feel differently, but that's the truth. That's how I feel about it. I mean, even the Stingray now has comparable penetration and comparable damage to this main battle tank. That's something to say when the light tank has comparable penetration and damage. Let's go take a look at how I recommend you equip it. So this tank's strengths are in reload and aim time. Its weaknesses are in everything else. I recommend Freya for the reduction in aim time and the quicker reload, as well as the increase in critical module damage. You can also go with, because you have a very, very poor penetration, you could also go with Vladimir for the increased rate of fire when you bounce against an enemy vehicle, or you go with Philip for, again, the increased rate of fire and the further increase in your maximum accuracy from being the most accurate vehicle to be even more accurate than you and any of your Tier 6 competitors. Crew-wise, you really need Smooth Ride, and you need Spin It to win it so hard. You need to aim, you need to be able to shoot on the move faster, and you really, 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 really need the hull traverse. I almost would get the hull traverse before I got Smooth Ride. For your gunner, you need to increase your already quick aim time to hopefully compete with the Chinese counterpart, and you need to increase your peak accuracy through marksmanship. or do the twist in order to speed up your turret. Those are your only real options. Shoot from the hip is not an option in this case. For your loader, rapid fire to increase the rate of fire, and I have noticed this thing takes engine hits like a pig, but doesn't really take ammunition rack hits, so I suggest secure ammo is not really something you need. I would rather have explosive shells. Moving on to the ammunition loadout, there's almost no point in firing this heat shell. There's really not. The 284 millimeters of penetration will never penetrate a tier 5 or 6 main battle tank. It's only truly useful against AFVs and tier 4 and lower main battle tanks. So don't really fire it, which is why we have almost twice as many Sabo rounds on this one. And a couple of HEs, but your HE is dog shit. It is one of the worst high explosive rounds in the game. Only use it if someone is under 50 hit points or you are very unlikely to actually kill them. As far as consumable goes, standard stock consumables, including the rebuild kit instead of the field repair kit. Retrofit-wise, I recommend increasing this thing's rate of fire as much as possible because that is one of your strengths, and the only way you're going to be able to kill your enemies before they kill you is by firing a shitload more shells than they fling at you. So I highly encourage moving accuracy as well as rapid fire. The internal hull reinforcement is the only real option since you only have one armor upgrade slot and you want as many hit points as you can muster. And you don't really have ammunition problems, but if you are consistently, like I am, having the engine problems, you may consider the reinforced engine housing in place of the internal hull replacement because you'll get less hit points, but you'll have less trouble with your engine getting destroyed or damaged. Intercom systems is almost a must. You're relying on rate of fire, you're relying on aim time, you're relying on getting rounds out before your opponents. It's a must. So, we've gone over all of that. We've gone over your weak points and your retrofits, why you would pick the particular retrofits I have chosen, the consumables, the ammunition loadout, the crew, and the tank stat breakdown. Let's go take a look at it in actual combat. And as I said, I will not be the one driving it today. So everyone, brief interruption before we start the footage. If you have enjoyed the review so far, or if you're just one of my fans in general, this is a reminder to hit the like button. I want to see 100 likes on... I want to try to get up to 100 likes on these tank reviews. Like, seriously. That's what we want to go for. We're very close on a couple of them, and I would love to see us finally get a tank review with 100 likes. So, that's the interruption. That's the announcement. By the way, I have some other tanks on the list. If you want a tank reviewed by me, then, put it in the comments below and add it to the list. Now on to the combat footage. That honor belongs to Manolo, who our sweet, sweet bastard of a German is in a Tier 7 game! Yep, he's fighting superior vehicles. And since he is one of the worst, if not the worst, statistical main battle tank of Tier 6, he's now got to fight Tier 7. Get the action on started here. Now, I promised you guys would have some fun with some of these vehicles. And you might. Now, he is actually driving towards the refinery. Something I highly recommend main battle tank drivers learn to do. And as you can see, he is proudly displaying, despite the fact he's German, this is an American tank, so he's proudly displaying American flags on both sides of the tank, as well as, I believe, an American crest for a division. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Also, the tank has mud flaps. Why do you need tank mud flaps? Like, seriously, explain that one to me. Now he is driving up into Port Storm, full speed, non-stop, looking to see if he can find something to shoot at. And he's rewarded with another American tank, which he's very lucky that went into the dirt instead of underneath his side skirt. So long as you get side shots to hit your side skirt, you would be surprised what the side skirts of this tank will block for you. It is when people shoot underneath the side skirts and underneath the side space armor, i.e. anything down here in the wheel area, that you tend to get penetrated. Now that is a T-80. That thing has a stupidly powerful gun. And if it hits the upper plate, it's not going to go in. Remember, to hit this side armor area, you actually need to shoot into here between this drive sprocket area and this front of the plate. And of course he bounces a Challenger 1. Not really going to be able to do much against Challenger 1's front with how bad this gun is. 325 penetration actually reads red on the Challenger 1 driver's port, but as you can see, the rear side of the Challenger 1, he can punch it hardcore. Another bounce off the upper front plate. Great job there, making sure that he's hitting the angled upper front plate instead of the lower, less angled, thinner front plate, i.e. the lower glacis. As you British people might call it, the boiler plate. Now he's having to determine what to do here, and he's taking another hit from that Challenger 1. Not really able to contest it at this time. Lots of rounds flying out, but no one's losing any hit points yet, and he's being very, very cautiously hesitant because he recognizes he is surrounded by Tier 8 main battle tanks, and reckless abandonment will get him killed quickly. As I spoke, you hit that front drive wheel, you break the track, and you penetrate through the side armor. Ouch. And in addition to this, they managed to penetrate through the side skirt because it was very poorly angled. Challenger comes around and engages him. He bounces the Challenger's commander's hatch and then takes one right through that same front drive wheel. And now he is down to 135 hit points with a lower plate penetration. Right there, you can see it behind the tow cable. Of course, now is when the action starts heating up. As you can see, that entire lower plate is not actually vulnerable. It's only the places near the tracks over here. So he's bouncing repeated shot after repeated shot from this Challenger off the lower plate. And the Challenger is, of course, taking massive damage trying to eliminate him. So yeah, moving back and forth is a good idea in this thing, because you have to shoot these tow cables to the outside in order to actually penetrate the lower plate consistently. At this point, Monolo is stunned that he's even alive. As he says, holy shit, in the chat. Now imagine he's typing out some long message right now and then decides against it and decides he actually needs to engage. I'm sorry, I'm a little tired here, folks. It's been a long day. And he manages to shoot back and penetrate the front of the T-80, which is no feat. I mean, the T-80 has very poor frontal armor. Especially for a Tier 7. But just poor frontal armor in general. And now, barely functioning, he's about to pull out in front of the Challenger 1 as soon as he's confirmed it's fired. Oh! Oh, they were after you. That was a ricochet off your upper front hull. He wanted a cheap kill. Nice denial of that one. As you can see, the ricochet over here on the upper part of the side skirt. And that T-80 is now in trouble. Ooh, nice snappy shooty, which this thing is pretty good at shooting on the move at times. So that's why I recommend the enhanced shell materials is for those snapshots to happen and actually connect with your target. Ooh, he takes the time to aim and punches the side of a Challenger 1, and now he's doing it again. That poor Challenger 1. Being shot in the rear and side by Monolo, who finishes the job. Nice job, Mon. Now again, he is vulnerable to incoming fire at this point. He has taken a significant beating. But a lot of it is bounced. Which I did say this thing does have pretty decent frontal armor. If you angle it properly. It's not like the T-80 where angling isn't a thing. This is much more, in terms of armor, like the Chieftain Mark V, but with much better hull armor. Sole remaining opponent is a BMD-4, by the way, and I don't think he gets him. He's going to try, though. As you can also see, look how slow this thing is. I mean, I know he's got a dead driver, but look at that. The Challenger's outrunning you, man. That's pathetically bad. That's just bad. The Chally should never outrun you. And sure enough, it did. Go figure. Whew. Excuse me, I'm actually quite tired today, and I hope you guys don't mind. I just haven't had a lot of sleep. So, let's go take a look at Monolo's post-game stats. Wake everyone up in the house while we go see just how well he performed. And what I consider one of the worst Tier 6 main battle tanks. So here they are. He did 2,700 damage, 2,800 spotting damage, 7 spotted, 7,600 reputation with 178,000 credits. This is also with a stock crew. He beat up a Challenger 1 fairly well. That was the rear of that Challenger 1. The other Challenger 1, he did a little bit of damage, but not really. He didn't really have any shots, and he did get some snapshots in on a pair of T-80s and an M60A3. Pretty good. Comes in 3rd place in his team in a Tier 7 game, right in the middle of the Tier 7s. 16 shots fired. All 16 hit the target. That's how accurate this gun is, but only 8 penetrated. That's how shitty the penetration is. He did, however, negate 3,600 potential damage with only 1,700 hit points total, and for most of them in negated damage, he only had 180 HP left. Good job. Nice black eyes, but good job. So yes, that is the XM1 main battle tank. That is my review and my opinion of it. You go make your own opinion of it. I guarantee you there are people who would disagree with me who would tell me it's a fabulous, wonderful vehicle. Let's have a discussion in the comments. Go ahead. Let's just get it out of our systems and explain to each other why we think the way we do. If you don't mind, also hit the like button. I'm trying really hard on one of these tank reviews to hit 100 likes. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm trying really, really, really hard. So let's see if we can do it. If you'd like to see more stuff by me, Fiaura, you can subscribe. It's a big red button that you caress. Oh, so lovely. And I guarantee you she will tell you every single time I put up a video or I start a live stream here on YouTube. And if you would like to support the channel, you can use their Patreon! Patreon, everyone! Patreon! Via clicking the link below or checking it out in the annotations. In the meantime, from my house to yours, this is Fiaura, and I will see all of your lovely faces next time. Bye-bye.